Eu não tenho medo de andar no mar. Eu só tenho medo do barco virar. Eu não tenho medo de andar no mar. Eu só tenho medo do barco virar. Big love, much respect, strength, wisdom, power, and reticence. All you fantastic dissidents, let's go to Antarctica. Let's go down to Antarctica. Everybody load up on the ship. Put your lotuses down. Put your your soma away. Let's go down to Antarctica. Get up on this ship with me. I want to first consummate my prehensive guesswork on the last episode. Some really fun things happen when you allow yourself to ramble. Some interesting auguries come through. In my last episode, I was turning the 12 into a sphinx, and it turned out to be more of a mouse than a sphinx. That was pretty fun. But when I did that, we're starting with the 1 and the 2. And as I wanted to bring forth the image more, I did the flagpole on the 1 to make it look more like a sphinx. But that becomes a 42. That really has a 42 right there. That's kind of neat. That's super neat. And 42 is not just the answer to the universe and everything. This is also Enneagram, sums to 42. Symposium, sums to 42. That was pretty neat little riddle within the riddle that even I missed. Also, about the 42. Checking the Sphinx riddle of the 12 against the inverted English numbers against the Greek symbols puts the pi and the rho in the beginning the pi and the rho of the 1 and the 2, and then there's a mu, and then there's a delta. Pi, rho, mu, delta spells pyramid. Sphinx, pyramid, the riddle of riddles, the riddle of riddles. Yeah, this is very interesting to me. I could surmise that there's maybe some dating in here. I was thinking about 1234 with the Battle of Lewis. Turns out, I'm pretty sure that was that right? 1234? Yeah. Pi rho. That is so interesting how the rho has the shape of the P, and the pi has the Q. It's like a flag going this way than that. Something very fascinating to find the pi, the rho, the mu, and the kappa being also a delta, having the value of 4. And delta is in the shape of a pyramid. It's pretty fascinating. Yeah, there's probably some mysteries mocking me right now that I'm just not prehensive to in a focused manner. And that's what meditation does. Gives you increased prehension. Puts you into the epsilon mind state for heightened awareness and receptivity of the phenomenon of, oh my gosh, how to say words better. The phenomenological mystery of the realm here in the epsilon of the number 3. All right, let's go to Antarctica. Let's have a good old time. The mysteries and the myths and the legends of Antarctica are definitely walking in the realm of fiction beyond what is can be corroborated. And when the claim of history is made, there is a certain level of preponderance of evidence that you need to tip past that 50-50 mindset of, is this fiction, is this fact? And that is has to do with a great deal of the burden of proof. And I am not even going to come close to stacking up a preponderance of evidence to try to convince people that Antarctica does not exist, or that these stories are real or false. The fact that Admiral Byrd went down there to fight aliens and got one of the ships cut in half, it's kind of tragically harmonic to the actual stars. The Argo constellation is a ship that is dismantled and is generally depicted with half of its keel embedded in the water, or maybe cut off or broken. It's a ship wreck. So Admiral Byrd's story, sadly enough, is astronomically already claimed. Somebody already put that story out a long time ago, and they start dismantling and remantling it like the ship of Theseus, and expect people not to recognize that this is the same ship. You guys keep unpacking the same thing. So the story of Shackleton in the, the Enterprise? No, the Endurance. The Endurance down there. Sorry, Argo beat you to it. Argo already beat you to it. It doesn't mean that the adventures didn't happen. It means that the adventures are dependent on the truth of the realm of forms in the heavens that almost make them not a liar. There's a little bit of an aspect of, if I say there's a black tea kettle floating between Mercury and Venus, but because it's black, you can't see it, but it is actually there. Everybody says, well, of course there's not, you're a liar, and I tell them that you have to disprove my claim, and it's a it's perplexing. It's a paradox. That's it. You're creating a false paradox and then putting the burden of other people to disprove your paradox. Well, strangely enough, there is a tea kettle in the sky. And at certain times of year, to say that Mercury and Venus are framing a black, invisible tea kettle in the sky, if Mercury and Venus are around Sagittarius, this comes true. It becomes true. And so a lot of people are stuck in that that polarity. But in the duality, you can actually find Venus and Mercury framing Sagittarius, who is a little teapot, short and stout. That's the shape of the Sagittarian constellation. And what is frustrating and probably going to make a lot of people want to do a reformation on astrologers is that to say that there's a tea kettle between Venus and Mercury and you're not going to be able to find it, and there you have to prove me wrong, it's not lying. At a certain alignment, it's actually true. And that doesn't give free rein to go running around making shit up and lying based on the realm of forms kind of thing. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is a great amount of what people used to think about this realm of forms and like the philosophical conundrums of, okay, we're going to talk about a table, but there's not a real table. There's not tableness anywhere. There's tableness is just a heavenly dimension that nobody has access to except for the priest class. Our altar is the table in the realm of forms. So much of those philosophical quandaries chase their own tail down here. And they don't even appreciate that there is a table in a hyperdimensional realm that goes completely unseen. All of those theoretical items are there for the harvesting. It's there for the harvesting. And so, in a strange way, to realize that so much of the tableness, the horseness, the lionness, the catness, the bearness, every time they said that, they were talking about the noose from the realm of forms. And Slick Dissident is lassoing those ideas, bringing them down all the time. And you'll get a lot of people talking about the shape of the constellations are arbitrary. They were established to... Go sacrifice another cock to Asclepius, if you care to. All right. Yeah, these systems have been up, consistent, and beyond anything the priest class is telling you. Way beyond. You got to test it, though. You got to test it. You got to go back before the date that the constellation was claimed to be named. You got to go back before Orania's mirror. You got to get yourself into Ptolemy's Tetrabiblos, and then find the stories that predate those stories and find the consistency in the realm of forms. It is a vast knowing. It is a vast knowing. And I'll guarantee you, if it seems like nonsense, you just haven't found it yet. You just haven't found it yet. Let's go to Antarctica, y'all. So the Endurance Shackleton, that ship is sunk halfway in the ice. That's Argo. That's Argo. And something does happen about releasing the oils, giving up your volition, and allowing the story to be true, because it's not a lie. To believe in the Shackleton myth is not a lie, even if it did factually happen. It's not a lie. It doesn't suffer from inconsistencies. It doesn't suffer from a paradox. Oh my gosh, brain fart. It doesn't suffer from dichotomies. Total brain fart. It'll come to. So even if Shackleton actually happened and all those records are on the up and up and legit, which anything written down or generalized is a lie to begin with. But let's just believe that what the records were written down to indicate are really pointing at actual factual things. The fascinating truth of that is that it's only an echo, a fortification of what was true on a higher plane. And that is that the Argo constellation is down there working wonders in the subconscious. In the Argo constellation, in Vela, it's in Vela, I'm pretty sure, which is the sail, the actual sail itself. Is that right? No, it's in Carina. It's in Carina. Is a homunculus constellation, a homunculus nebula. A mother homunculus nebula and a baby homunculus nebula is in the Carina constellation. So there's a mother and a baby homunculi, a babushka homunculi, inside of the Carina. I feel like Carina it's not the sail itself, but the fascinating thing about the Carina and the homunculi mama with the homunculi baby is that the Nicene Creed was signed on the date at the window of the Carinid meteor showers. And so this east to the west Nicene Creed and the de-paganizing or re-paganizing of the Christian, anti-Christian, pagan, Christian, all of this tomfoolery is an observance of the Carinid meteor showers, which damn, it's really bugging me. Vela is the sail and Carina is the mast. But the Phrixus constellation is the compass on the mast of the boat. The mast of the boat. The Phrixus constellation, which is the compass. And this compass is under attack. You get into the Marxist activist camps, and you realize that they got a big hard-on for praxis. They got a hard-on for praxis. Active practitioners have a big thing for the praxis, and they have no clue that they're hailing the compass. They're hailing to the compass. And I'm going to point at, in regards to the compass, is that NATO, that is their logo, and their slogan is a mind unfettered by deliberation, which is to say that they want to truncate your moral compass and have you always constantly pointing north, always staying obedient, much like a magnetic needle, a magnetic needle that only has a single sense of direction, only singular. It never even looks elsewhere. It's constantly pointing north. And I have a bit of a good reason to believe that worshiping the north creates a psychic blind spot for the masses. The whole world is looking north psychically. It exposes their back pocket for the pickpocketers to come through and snatch your precious personal health information. Imagine that the North Star is a spokesperson, a rhetorician, and as they do their gesticulations, raising their fingers higher and higher, climbing into a climactic expression of seizing the moment, and all of the stars come down in resolution. While the orator is catching your feels and generating a sense of communal communing, that is exactly when the pickpocket takes what you got and confirms your sense of alleviation. You feel alleviated by the hand movements of this grand Ars Notoria guru. And somehow, all of a sudden, you feel lighter. I guess we all feel lighter, don't we? That is the moment that the pickpockets in the crowd make the move. It's choreography. Choreography is an anagram for G.I. Gurdjieff. All right. I'm way in La La Land. Let's get back to Antarctica. Robert Falcon Scott. Millennium Graham Falcon. Over here. The Millennium Graham Falcon. Robert Falcon Scott was the name of the guy that went down there and did his little hullabaloo runaround to bring these stories forward. I'm just going to talk about it like it's all bullshit. I'm going to talk about it as though it's all bullshit because if any of it is true, then that's great news. That's great news. I'm stoked if some of these things actually happened. I'm okay with that. But the myth has an alchemy with it that does not suffer from contradictions. Boom. It does not suffer from contradictions. So the myth is complete. It doesn't suffer from contradictions. And inside a complete system, a great amount of psychological seeds and innuendos and doublespeak and inside baseball. A lot of inside baseball. Big up to James pointing out... Oh, no, it wasn't James, but big up to James anyways. Somebody in my comments mentioned the baseball diamond, and that trips me out because theoretically different sports take on different tropes. The word sports and tropes, same thing, but the scoring system create different egregoric patterning. So when I said, like, learn how to count in base 20, learn how to count in base 9 or base 11 or other based numerical systems, Each one of those numerical systems will have its own anomalies, these habits of numerical patterning. And those anomalies are animals. They are animals. They are working on a higher plane. It doesn't have to be scary. It just is what it is. But the anomalies are animals. So when you do a different cipher, like 9-based, you're going to get different animals, phylum, kingdom, species. But when you shift to another sport like baseball or tennis, where it's 3 love, oh, 3 love, the whole language of scorekeeping has its own anomalous systems that we are actually very good at. I don't know how tennis is scored. 15? By 15? So that's a devil card. All right. Sorry. Ranting. Robert Falcon Scott went down to Antarctica for scientific purposes. Everything scientific. In the name of science is the God at the head of the mast of the boat. That's the compass. That's his grand compass. And long story short, eventually he finds that Roald Emerson from Norway already put the flag in at ground zero of zero markation, 0 by 0. Roald Emerson is pretty much an anagram for Enneagram, pretty much. I forget, there were a great many things coming out of that name, Roald Emerson. And Emerson is itself Twilight speak for American. So yeah, Waldo Emerson was the greatest American poet of American history. So a really wild little Twilight nugget there with the Emersons. But he was from Norway. He staked his claim from Norway. He had already been there and left. This is the essence of the Norwegians. They are so fascinatingly stoic. I can't envy them enough. In fact, it doesn't matter how much I envy them. They don't give a shit. They walk tall and carry a big stick. They are so... they're just another mentality. I can't even see the world they might possibly see it. It's hard to perceive because they are so reserved and so refined. Study the economy of Norway, and you'll get a sense of culturally what I'm talking about. They are the most stoic example of cultural mastery that I've ever perceived. It is so intimidating. Essentially, that they've turned all of their weakness, all of their adversity into their strengths on just profound levels. And then they go pick fights with whales. So that all the environmentalists are like, Norway's the bully. And that is Promethean. The whale blubber is what lit all the candles for the Enlightenment. While everybody's staying up all night, paying for coffee to stay up all night, they got to pay extra for their whale blubber to keep the oil lamps going. So the coffee and the whale blubber are a Baphomet and a Prometheus of the Enlightenment. Totally ranting. Let's get back to Norway making their claim. I believe that the Loki staff from the Avengers series was a hail to Norway. The shape of the staff is in the shape of the Norwegian coast, where all the big sticks that those stoic badasses ship onto the world and make themselves quite rich. And another thing, they have almost zero they have extremely low population, but very mechanistically perfected output. And so they have made so much money off of just keeping their population low. And the efficiency is just, it's ponderous. It's completely ponderous. So Norway, having put their stick in the ground already when Robert Falcon, Millenniagram Falcon Scott gets down there, and he's got the science as his guiding light. That's his agon, is science. Emerson had already done the whole run around and come back again, and he doesn't give a fuck about science. Y'all can have your science. It's about real lived experience. Ah, man, what a minefield our language has become. Lived experience. It's like once you understand the origin of, yeah, I'm going off. I'm just going to go off. Alfred North Whitehead, he gave us the word creativity, apparently. That's so hard to believe, but creative process is his jam. It's got his little stamp on it. Process. Boom. The creative process. You're speaking in his paradigm. And that is exactly what gets me so often is I don't enjoy acquiescing to already claimed territory. So when I go through the Enneagram, I'm like, oh, look how awesome this is. And then I find Alfred North Whitehead's flag is already here. And the creative process that I was using to elaborate on the Enneagram and the tarot cards, guess what? Grandpappy Oliver North Whitehead already put his flag in my Antarctica. That fucking bastard. And I can't do shit because the Stoics, they don't even care. You can't even bring them to the party to argue with them because they're already above all of that. All right. Yeah, I think that was a good metaphor. I'm just going to list some of the highlights of some of the locations around Antarctica. And what's amazing is, first, let me do this. I'm going to go through the Odyssey very quickly, if I can. Yes, I'm going to go through the Odyssey very quickly. Minus Troy and the Cicones, which is a 1 and a 2, which makes our pyramid Sphinx 1-2 initiation. Joaquin Boaz gets us through the gates. Minus the Battle of Troy and the aspects of the Cicones. The first chapter is the Lotus Eaters. This is articulating sloth. Next comes the Cyclops of Polyphemus, which is, we're going backwards. We're going 9 to 8 to 7 to 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ulysses is going reverse through the Enneagram. Cyclops, Aeolians. Then comes the Lestragonians, is the 6 with the shadow of fear. Then comes the Cerseis, is number 5. And then he goes to Hades, in the gap of the Pythias, between the 4 and the 5. Love is 45, and Codes is 45, this gap of the Pythias. And it's also Urania and Uriel and Raphael, the telescopium and the microscopium, the scales, the dimensional scales of magnification are greater than, less than, are also Uriel, Raphael. The above, so below. So yeah, he goes down to Hades and he has to do a blood sacrifice at this. It's the most profound scene, I think, of the entire Iliad. Let's see. Then he comes to. This is what always gets me. All right, so he's with Tiresias in the land of the dead. Now, a quick point. Some of these cards actually do fit from the primes. Some of them actually do fit. Like, I really do love Polyphemus as the sun card. In the original layout, this, for Hades, was next to the death card, was in the 4th spot. But the card for Hades was Tiresias. So when he goes to Hades to talk to Tiresias, Tiresias is the Indus constellation down there. And so it's actually astrologically impeccable for them to be talking about Tiresias between the 4 and the 5. Then he goes on to, what is it? I can never say this one. He hits the Sirens. Let's see, number 5. He hits the Sirens next. And then he goes through Scella and Charybdis to get to the island of Apollo. This is wild because of the Epsilon and the potential of Apollo having that dichotomous relationship to Dionysus. And now hear me out. Epsilon, Apollo. You always, with Greek, you can just buy a free H out of anywhere, and you can throw it in the trash if you don't need it. The free H is it's usually at the beginning of the word, But if it starts with a vowel, if a word like epsilon starts with a vowel, there's an invisible H at the front of it. It's actually hypsilon. So yeah, the invisible vowel, it's just fascinating because of the epsilon of the five. Epsilon has a very epalo resonance to it. Dionysus, his brother, this switch of the 3 and the 6 again, his brother Dionysus, well, that almost resonates with the digamma. Dionysus is real close to the digamma. So the Apollo and the Dionysus, the epsilon and the digamma, are again resonating in a twilight glimmer, the shimmer of the phenomenological potentia. Then he goes to, what's her name? Calypso. Okay, yeah. It's the, gosh, Trinachia. Trinachia is where they transgress against Apollo. And then he goes to Calypso and gets offered to become to be a god, to be immortal, to live forever, to do the alchemical process in the Carl Jung of the not suffering a dichotomy. Oh my gosh, I lost it again. Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. Moving forward. Then he goes to, oh man, Phaeacia. Phaeacia is where he goes last. And then eventually he makes his way back to Ithaca, back home. In Antarctica, there are at least 5 of the stations of the Odyssey. And it's maybe in time, maybe I'll get a map. If I can, I'll do a map of Antarctica, and I'll put the stations of the Ulysses Odyssey. I keep saying Ulysses, by the way. Ulysses and Odysseus are correspondent linguistically, so that's I think a forgivable mistake. But all right, I'm going to try to put together the locations in Antarctica on the map. It looks way too much like a brain for me, way too much like a brain. And for the corresponding mythological dynamics to actually play a role on an anatomical image of what the brain is telling stories within stories within stories that are there for the conquering. They are there for the conquering, for all of us. You should all have at it. So I'm going to try to draw a map or get a map of Antarctica in these locations. The Vostok location resonates very much with the Laestrygonians, as Odysseus did not want to bring his ship in too far. He could tell that there was he had a prehensive sense that something wasn't right here, that the Laestrygonians were going to attack. Sure enough, the Vostok is where they said that they found organism 46B, some crazy squid monster that turns off your radio and camouflage disappears into night vision like Predator. And then Putin came and snatched it up, and he's probably injecting his soldiers with its DNA. That's Laestrygonians. That's totally Laestrygonians. Super soldier? He's going to make super soldiers out of these ignorant monsters, or these, these horrible mythologies. It's so neat. It's so neat how the Enneagram reveals the epics being unpacked over and over in unprovable realms. You can't even get down there to prove them right or wrong. You just got to take their word for it. No thanks. I will surgically dismantle this entire myth for myself. Thank you very much. The Deep Lake. The Deep Lake seems to comport to the ketamine of the lotus eaters. Very strong ketamine implication to the lotus eaters. And some motherfucker just passed away recently. One of the friends, I lost a friends, meta, hyperstitious, friends within friends, falling out from ketamine. Interesting enough, the K-hole comes to mind with the kappa down here. But yeah, it also makes me think very much of the Lotus Eaters. This it's a hole that is as big as Iceland, bigger than Iceland. So that's the K hole of the ketamine of the Lotus Eaters. Let me think. Oh, De Muerto Dry Valley. This is a beautiful, beautiful humdinger. It makes me think of this card, the color. But in the Dry Valley is Blood Falls. Blood Falls is a certain elemental seepage that is blood red spilling out on ice. It looks just like what the image of Tiresias in the Land of the Dead, where he does a sacrifice and the blood of the animal spills out on the ice, and then all the spirits come and they try to get to the blood, and he has to hold them back with his sword, telling us that the sword actually stays off spirits. That's very profound. Iron, 26 letters in the English alphabet. Iron keeps the ghosts away. 26 letters in the English alphabet. Fe. Also, that's Tyler Glacial Blood Falls. So the Tyler aspect of keeping them at bay with a sword. This is the Masonic initiation of the make you an offer you can't refuse, pull you with your string, here's some blood. They're pulling the ropes to draw them in, and then they put the tailor's scissors is what makes the man. This is so Masonic, it's redonkulous. It's totally redonkulous. So yeah, I really dig the Blood Falls thing. It's very sensational. But there's also a Bony Lake. The Bony Lake, it's the death card. They're down in Hades with the Bony Lake, and this is the death card here, and this is maybe Blood Falls. Very fascinating. And this is also Beaker and Dr. Honeydew. It's amazing how they can just pair off these functional duality. And then they move from the Bony Lake, from the Blood Falls, which I think is Ross Lake. Oh no, that's what's next. So we go from the Blood Falls, we move to Ross Ice Shelf. The Ross Ice Shelf is the Sirens. It's totally the Sirens. Let's see. Here we go. I'm going to bring this one in. And maybe I'll get some images to kind of... Oh, no, it's not going to do it. I got it. Look at the sonic waves. Look at the ripples and emanations. You know, this is how jurisdictions work, concentric rings. That's how jurisdictions work. A lot of the monadism and the North Star and the wheel of the wheels is actually laying out the map for jurisdictions. You all should draw 10 concentric circles as well as you can for practice, and then number the circles 0 through 10 going into the circle. And then next to the 10 you drew in the inner circle, leave room for a 1 next to it. So it reads 10, 1. And then draw a twin tower going out from that circle. And then play around with the math between the numbers going in and the numbers going out. Just play around with the math and let it tell you what it needs to tell you. Ross Ice Shelf, the songs change with the environmental shift. The songs change with the environmental shift. That is to say, the summer days when it's melted down, the song is different. The days when the snow is built up, it's a little different. The Sirens' song said 2 things. I know your pain. Sympathetic magics, they harmonize to your pain. And the other thing they say is, I can tell you whether or not it's good to go forward in life. I can tell you if you're going to have a positive or a negative future. So the song of the Ross Ice Shelf is something of an augury. And so the tied to the mast to not to boat, tied in knot to mast a boat, tied in knot to mast a boat is observed in the Ross Ice Shelf. And then the next location is the extreme Wilkes Land Anomaly. The Wilkes Land Anomaly is a gravitational vortex that gives us the Scylla and the Charybdis. The Scylla and the Charybdis. It also kind of harmonizes with Cerseis Island. The Wilkes Land Anomaly, I want it to be Scylla and Charybdis, but it really hits because the gravity is different there. And she's a very potent alchemist. And what happens is all the rules of alchemy change in a location where the gravity is different. And so you wouldn't be able to use a 10-base system. You'd have to go to the Mayan 20-base system or some other mathematics, because the entire replication process would go into crisis. The replication crisis. Y'all should look up the replication crisis. It's profound. There's the Overton window has science in the guillotine. Long ago. All right. So I think I rambled all that I felt the need to ramble. I am going to be taking some time off for the next couple weeks. You'll see me over on the Endurance channel. I think next week, maybe this coming Wednesday, I got to look at a calendar. And then I'm going to be on with Chance and Beth Martins after that. So a lot of fun revelations coming up in the program. But Slick is going to put away his childish things just for a couple weeks. My juvenilia has to go in the fire. So I can have some quality time, some real quality time. So big love and respect. Everybody keep your wits about you. Keep your wits about you. There has been a lot invested in the East and the West split, and keeping your mind second-guessing itself. Just remember what I told you, that science isn't going anywhere, and neither is alchemy. The self-fulfilling prophecy of not suffering and... I keep forgetting my own words. Not suffering a... I got it. I'm going to cut. Give thanks and praise. Will not suffer a contradiction. That's it. Will not suffer a contradiction. That, for me, is a very fulfilling truth. The suffering of a contradiction. It really is. It's a keystone. It's a keystone. It is to say that when you allow cognitive dissonance to come in, then you end up having to blame yourself when it doesn't prove true, when it doesn't prove out. So there is so much cognitive dissonance built into the stories. And maybe in the olden days, that was their way of saying, like, don't believe this, don't think this is real, don't take any of this literal. We're going to put this cognitive dissonance in there so you guys will always have to question and not turn this into a gospel. The suffering of contradictions. The suffering of contradictions. There's a few examples that I want to say. The story of Saturnalia. The story of Saturnalia is about a ideal time when nobody owned anything and everything was everything, and everybody had you owned nothing, and they were all happy. But then there was this one day of the year when the slaves get to be the masters, and the masters have to be the slaves. Hold on. I thought nobody owned anything. I thought this was thought this was utopia. I thought everything was fine. No, no, no. There's this one day when the slaves are that's a cognitive dissonance spell. In the content, I'm not talking about Rome and Saturnalia. I'm talking about the twilight, pre-dawn Saturnian bullshit. And another thing about the Saturnian story, as much as I love my Emanuel Velikovsky, boy oh boy do I love him, and a lot of answers are right there for the having. I'm seeing the light of Alfred White Northhead. Did I just say that? Yeah, let's do that. Let's go with it. Let's roll with it. Alfred White Northhead. Let's roll with that. This pointing to the north, in the North Star, in the compass of NATO. I'm seeing a lot of did I say Oliver? Oh my God. Alfred White Northhead. I'm seeing him, his egregoric namesake, layered onto the entire Saturnian cosmology. But also, I think, reading his work, I think he knew about the suffering of a contradiction. I think that's a hallmark of the artists, that they are compelled to place tactical contradictions in your life. And so when we read stories about going to Antarctica, you can expect the tactical contradictions to compel you to make things right again. Your anamnesis, your remembering from deep, deep past will bring to bear on the weight of the cognitive dissonance that is seated in the mythology, and it will snap back into recognition of what you already knew to be the true patterns of the collective homunculus psychological experience. All right. I had a little break there. I keep forgetting this. Suffering of contradictions. This is like this is my new lens. This is my new Scooby-Dum magnifying glass. I'm realizing the suffering of contradictions is where the uneven weights and measures, and people are constantly getting ripped off, and the value of the returns for their labor is so piss poor that this offset of the weights and measures that is mammon, by not demanding a higher standard, we are off-gassing with grace. We're giving a gift that is not deserved. We're just bleeding grace out of our souls. And everybody keeping that optimistic, oh, it's all oakley-dokley with uneven weights and measures. That's just how it goes. The grace off-gassing from the imbalance of reality is where the suffering of contradictions is too much, and the kettle's about to pop. The kettle is about to pop. The suffering of contradictions is way too much, folks. And they're going to blame you for snapping. They're going to blame you because you couldn't suffer the contradictions long enough. They're going to lock your ass up if you make a stink because these uneven weights and measures, that's just how it works. Keep the grace coming in, y'all. Rake in the grace. Keep raking in the grace. The undeserving gifts. All right. Much love and respect. I'm going to be on my own grace period for a while. Big love.